To treat my husband's cancer, I called every relative and friend I could think of to borrow money, while also staying at the hospital to care for him and working 5 jobs at the same time. My mom felt sorry for me and secretly found a shady hospital to sell one of her kidneys, but she tragically passed away from a postoperative infection. My dad worked day and night driving a taxi to help me make money, but late one night he fell off an overpass, and we couldn't even find his body. Even so, Fu Xin still couldn't be saved. But at the funeral, my parents-in-law took me to court and demanded that I pay back the 200,000 yuan in medical expenses they had covered while treating my husband. As his wife, you have a duty to help him, so you have to repay this money. In just 1 month, I lost my parents and my husband, and I was left penniless and drowning in debt. When I was using my last 10 yuan to buy chrysanthemums to pay tribute to Fu Xin, I saw him holding a stunning woman in his arms. He drove up in a luxury car to pick up my beaming in-laws. This plan is absolutely perfect. Not only did we cure the illness, we even swindled her parents' death compensation out of them. From now on, I won't have to put up with that old hag's attitude anymore. I'm going to start a new life with my darling. A surge of blood rushed to my head, and I fainted when I opened my eyes again. I had returned to the day Fu Xin had just been diagnosed with cancer. This time, I'll make you wish you were dead. Oh no, he's so young. How did he end up with cancer? What are we supposed to do now? My mother-in-law, Touting Xiong, kept slapping her thigh with the medical report in hand. Honey, I'm still young. I don't want to die yet. The doctor said there's a chance I can be saved. You have to help me. Fu Xin held my hand tightly, and the panic in his eyes was unmistakable. Seeing everything unfolding before me, I realized I had been reborn in my last life. When I heard that Fu Xin had cancer, I immediately promised I would never abandon him and did everything I could to raise money for his treatment. I sold the house and car at home, then brought a folding bed and moved into the hospital to take care of him. During the day, I stayed at the hospital looking after Fu Xin, encouraging him in every way I could and trying hard to keep him cheerful. At night, I went to a KTV to sell drinks. Though I hated drinking, I forced myself to down bottle after bottle with customers just to earn a little extra tip. But cancer was a bottomless pit. With repeated rounds of chemo and radiation, money vanished like water. In just 1 short month, the money from selling the house and car was already almost gone. I had no choice but to borrow money from every friend and relative I could find. Not even sparing my old nemesis, I gave up my dignity, all just to buy Fu Xin a chance to stay alive. The overwhelming pressure turned my hair white in an instant. I was still not even 30, yet I looked more exhausted than someone in their 50s. My parents felt sorry for me and often turned away to secretly wipe their tears to ease my burden. My mom secretly went to a shady hospital and had one of her kidneys removed without telling me. Mom's getting old, and I can't really help you much anymore. Take this money and use it for emergencies. When he handed me that heavy wad of cash, I took it straight to the hospital without even noticing how pale Mom looked. By the time I saw her again, Mom had already been admitted to the hospital because of an infection. Don't spend any more money on me, Mom. I'm not going to treat it anymore. That same day, Mom passed away, and I never got the chance to save her. I sat frozen in the hallway, thinking about how to tell Dad, when bad news came through the phone line right after. Dad drove a taxi day and night to raise money for me. Late one night, while passing an overpass, he crashed through the guardrail and fell into the river. The current was so strong that even his body was nowhere to be found. I collapsed to the ground, my sobs echoing through the entire hallway. But reality wouldn't let me grieve for long. After a simple funeral for my parents, I rushed back to the hospital to take care of Fu Xin. When I was at my lowest, my in-laws came up with 200,000 yuan and begged me not to give up. They stayed at the hospital to care for him, while I worked 5 jobs a day, sleeping only 2 hours a night, pouring every penny I earned into the hospital. Even so, Fu Xin still passed away. When people are in unbearable pain, they can't even cry. I numbly arranged his funeral. But at the funeral, my in-laws, who had always encouraged me, suddenly changed their attitude. As his wife, you have a duty to help. We don't. That 200,000 yuan we spent on our son, you must pay back. I refused, so they took me to court. In the end, through the court's ruling, they took back all 200,000 yuan in compensation from my parents. In just half a year, I lost my parents, my husband, and ended up penniless. But when I took my last 10 yuan to buy a bouquet of chrysanthemums to pay tribute to Fu Xin, I saw a scene I would never be able to forget. The supposedly dead Fu Xin sat in the front passenger seat of a luxury car with a stunning woman in his arms, smiling as he welcomed his in-laws into the car. Our plan is absolutely perfect. Not only did we cure the illness, we even swindled the compensation money from her parents. I never have to look at that old woman's face again. I'm going to start a new life with my baby. Tears fell silently, so Fu Xian wasn't dead after all, so this was all part of their scheme. That suffocating pain still lingered in my heart, impossible to calm. Since heaven has given me a second chance at life, I will definitely change the fate of myself and my family. I gripped Fu Xian's hand, looked into his eyes, and said seriously, don't worry. This time I'll take good care of you, too. Please don't panic, family member. As long as we proceed with active treatment, there's still a very good chance of recovery. The doctor's words brought us back to reality. In my previous life, the moment I heard the word cancer, I completely panicked and took the doctor's words as nothing more than comfort. Looking at it now, the doctor wasn't lying. As long as you seek treatment actively, you can recover. After arranging the hospitalization and surgery, my in-laws pulled me aside with heavy expressions, touting Xiang, Qingqing. Over all these years, we've seen how Xian has felt about you. Now that he's sick, this is exactly when he needs you. You absolutely can't abandon him. Father-in-law Fu Liang, Xian is still so young. Even if we have to sell everything we own, we have to treat him as a daughter-in-law of the Fu family. As Xian's wife, you have to shoulder the responsibility. You should. They spoke with such righteous conviction that, in just a few words, they pushed all the responsibility onto me, as if the one lying in that hospital bed weren't their own son. Seeing that I didn't answer, Fu Liang went on, sell the house and car if you have to, then go find a job. I've got a friend who runs an entertainment venue, and I've already made arrangements. You can go work for him. You should also spend more time chatting with Xian. Only when he's in a better mood will he recover faster. If you're really too swamped, come to us. We're old, so there's only so much we can help with. In the end, it's mostly on you. In my previous life, I was so consumed by grief that I completely failed to notice the two of them had their own ulterior motives. They want me to take on everything while they sit back and do nothing. Not a chance. Mom, Dad, you're absolutely right. Fu Xian is sick right now, and this is exactly when he needs care. How could it be enough just to sell our car and house, sell your house too, and borrow some money from relatives and friends? Getting the medical bills paid should be the priority. Fu Xian is your biological son. You're not going to ignore him, are you? After hearing what I said, the old couple's faces suddenly darkened. They avoided my eyes, hemming and hawing without giving me an answer. After dealing with them, I immediately called my parents. When I heard my mother's familiar voice on the other end again, tears instantly streamed down my face. Mom, hello, Qingqing, what's wrong? Hearing my choked-up voice, my mom immediately panicked. Sweetheart, what happened? Did someone bully you? Tell Mom and Dad, and we'll help you get even. My dad said, you must be worn out from work. Come home for dinner. I'll make your favorite sweet and sour pork ribs. Seeing that Mom and Dad were fine, my tense heart finally settled down. Thank goodness Mom hadn't died in this life yet. There was still time for everything. It's nothing. I just miss you both. Once this period is over, I'll come home to see you. After hanging up, I immediately started taking inventory of the family assets. The house and car would have to be sold, but I'd take every cent of my own share. As I reached the door of Fu Xian's hospital room, a coy female voice came from inside. Brother Xian, I heard you have cancer. What am I supposed to do now? 3. Don't worry, the doctor said it's still in the early stage. As long as I get proper treatment, my chances of recovery are as high as 95%. It'll just cost some money. So what do we do? Will Sister Qingqing take out money to pay for your treatment? Fu Xian sounded completely certain. Of course she will. I'll have her scrape together money for my treatment, and then I'll take the chance to fake my death and slip away. By then, we won't ever have to put up with her mood swings again, and we can be together openly. Even though I already knew what they were planning, hearing those words come straight out of Fu Xian's mouth still made me feel a chill run through me. I recognized the woman in the hospital room. She was Fu Yan's distant cousin, Fu Yuyu. She had come to rely on Fu Xian 2 or 3 years ago, and I even helped her find a place to live and a job. Looking at it now, the two of them had clearly been involved for a long time. Fu Xian was my first love. We met, fell in love, and got married, and I thought we were a match made in heaven. I never expected our relationship to have been riddled with cracks for so long. Luckily, it wasn't too late to walk away. The divorce was a given, and I'd take every single thing that belonged to me with me. None of it would be left behind. A week later, just as I was packing up things at home, the hospital suddenly called. Fu Xian's condition has worsened. By the time I rushed to the hospital, my in-laws were already crying their eyes out by the bedside. The moment they saw me, they rushed over and grabbed my hand. Qingqing, you're finally here. The doctor says Xian needs surgery right away, so hurry up and pay for it. I yanked my hand back in disgust and wiped away the tears on it with a tissue. How am I supposed to have Money, the house and car haven't been sold yet, and our savings aren't enough either. Don't you still have savings? Hurry up and pay it. Tao Dingxiang suddenly got worked up. Why haven't they been sold yet? Didn't I already help you find a buyer? I suddenly became wary in my past life. In order to raise money quickly, I sold the family house and car to someone my mother-in-law introduced at half the market price, but this time, I wasn't in a hurry to sell. Looking at it now, the person my in-laws introduced was very likely part of their plan. Fu Xian's treatment is going to cost so much money. Of course I need to compare my options carefully and sell for a good price so I can pay for his medical care. This is an emergency. Take out the money you have on hand and use it for treatment now. The one lying in there is your own son. You wouldn't be unwilling to spend this money, would you? I'd made Fu Liang so furious that he was red in the face, but he still didn't dare lose his temper. In the end, under the doctor's urging, he grumbled his way to pay the bill. The surgery went very well, and Fu Xian was out of danger again. However, after the operation that opened him up from head to toe, Fu Xian's condition took a sharp turn for the worse. His hair was shaved off, and his face had gone deathly pale. After all, we had lived together for 5 years. Seeing him like this, lifeless and devoid of vitality, my heart still stirred faintly. I sighed. As long as they stopped making trouble, the money from splitting the assets evenly, plus my in-laws' savings, should be enough to save his life. At that moment, Tao Dingxiang suddenly changed her usual attitude, took my hand, and said warmly, "Our Fu family is truly blessed to have a daughter-in-law like you. I told you, there was no way Xian would go wrong marrying you." I couldn't help wondering what they were up to this time. Sure enough, bad news came that very evening. My parents were in trouble, for I rushed home in a panic and found out that my dad had twisted his ankle going downstairs, and my mom had fallen while trying to help him. Thankfully, it wasn't serious. Dear, something this big happened and you didn't even tell us. If your mother-in-law hadn't called us, I still wouldn't have known. We haven't saved much over the years. Just take the 500,000 for now. Don't worry about paying us back. I was stunned. What? My mother-in-law asked you for money? I truly hadn't expected my mother-in-law to be so shameless that she'd even set her sights on my parents. My parents had lived frugally all their lives, and that 500,000 was their coffin money. On top of that, my parents weren't in good health and were always having to go to the hospital. If my in-laws took that money, it would be like taking their lives. At that moment, even the last bit of goodwill I had toward the Fu family was gone. Since you can be so heartless, then I have no reason to show you any mercy either. To keep my parents from hurting themselves again, I told them I was planning to get a divorce. Though surprised, they still supported me without hesitation. After comparing several options, I finally found a suitable buyer. Meanwhile, Fu Xian had also reached the most critical stage of treatment. I brought the agreement to the hospital room. At that moment, Fu Xian was hooked up to a pile of machines, his face utterly colorless, looking completely defeated. In my previous life, I was scared by his condition and went crazy trying to raise money for him, but now, seeing him like this, I felt nothing at all. I placed a stack of documents on the bedside table. I've already made the arrangements, just sign here and you can get the money. Fu Xian put on a moved expression and, without reading it carefully, signed his name on it. Ching. I knew you loved me. Don't worry, I'll never let you down. Fu Xian's parents and Gu Yuyu, who had been standing outside, rushed in. Ching. I knew you wouldn't abandon our Xian. Transfer the money to my account. The hospital is waiting for payment. It's more convenient to keep the money with me. You can go out and make the most money working away from home, and we'll handle things at the hospital. I glanced at her and said coldly, I think you've got it wrong. This is my money. What gives you the right to it? As soon as I finished speaking, everyone in the room froze. Tao Dingxiang said, Ching. What do you mean by this? This is Xian's life-saving money. Are you trying to keep it for yourself? Cough. Hearing what I said, Fu Xian couldn't catch his breath and burst into violent coughing on the bed. His body, already weakened by illness, now looked as if it could fall apart at any moment. Gu Yuyu hurried over and gently patted his back to help him catch his breath. Sister-in-law, how could you be so heartless? Just look at what Xian is like now. And you're still keeping the money from him and refusing to hand it over. He's depending on that money to save his life. I watched all this coldly. You know exactly what you're planning. I'm only taking back what's rightfully mine. Fu Liang slammed the table hard. The house and the car belong to our Fu family, so the money from selling them should naturally go to our Fu family too. If you're trying to pocket it for yourself now, aren't you just trying to kill him? Not only do we not agree, the law won't allow it either. If I take you to court, you'll still have to hand over that money. Fu Xian reached out and grabbed my arm. Honey, we're husband and wife. I'm about to have my second surgery, and this is exactly when I need money. You can't just stand by and let me die. I don't want to die yet. Dad's right. Even if you don't care about all these years we've been together, taking that money without permission is still illegal. I shoved his hand away and pulled the divorce agreement out of that stack of papers. Do you want to take a look at what you just signed? 5 after. Carefully reading the document in my hand, everyone present froze in disbelief. Fu Xian widened his eyes and looked again and again. You actually tricked me into signing the divorce agreement. What have I done to wrong you? How did things suddenly come to this? To divorce? Is it just because I'm sick? I never expected that after all these years together, you still wouldn't be willing to face even this little test with me. Is our marriage really this fragile? Fu Xian accused me tearfully. As if he had truly suffered a tremendous injustice, I couldn't help but laugh. Isn't it? Dare you swear that you haven't done anything over the past few years to betray me? As soon as I finished speaking, Fu Xian's and Gu Yuyu's faces darkened instantly, their eyes darting around, no longer carrying the arrogance they had just shown. Seeing the tense atmosphere, mother-in-law immediately stepped in to smooth things over. Oh, Qingqing. You must be joking, right? How did things get to the point of divorce? He's probably just had a rough time these past few years. If you've got any grievances, tell Mom. We'll help you put this bad boy in his place. He's seriously ill right now, so don't take it out on him. Gu Yuyu chimed in as well. Yeah, sis-in-law, brother Xian is already in that state. It's really not right of you to pick a fight with him now. You should hurry up and hand over the money. Treating brother Xian's illness is the priority. If his condition gets delayed, it'll be disastrous. I put the agreement in my hand into my bag and said calmly, I'm not joking, and I'm not throwing a tantrum. Not only do I want a divorce, but the asset division clearly states that the money for the house and car belongs to me. Those funds have nothing to do with you. After hearing what I said, Tao Dingxiang, who had just been speaking softly, instantly raised her voice several notches. What? You want to take all the money? Qingqing, what exactly has our Fu family done to wrong you that you'd want to drive Xian to his death? Over the years, your father-in-law and I have treated you as if you were our own daughter. We even agreed when you said you didn't want children. You're still wearing our Fu family heirloom on your wrist. You can't be this ungrateful. I looked at my wrist, and sure enough, I was wearing the jade bracelet she had given me on our wedding day for a long time. I even took that as proof that they valued me, until I saw the record showing she bought it on Taobao for 99 yuan. The Fu family did have an heirloom bracelet, but right now it was on Fu Qingqing's wrist. I took off the bracelet and tossed it back to her. I'm not interested in something like this. Better save it for Fu Xian's little lover, don't you think, cousin? Everyone's faces darkened, embarrassed and furious. Gu Yuyu hurriedly hid the bright bracelet on her wrist. Why you? What are you talking about? I and cousin, she was still too young after all. I only had to say one thing to send her into a panic. Seeing that the truth could no longer be hidden, Tao Dingxiang stopped pretending. Since you already know, we won't hide it from you anymore. But if you didn't want to have children, we had no choice but to do this. Yo-Yo doesn't want any title. She's willing to bear children for the Fu family and carry on the family line, as the Fu family's daughter-in-law. You should be thanking her for taking on the burden of childbirth for you, don't you? Think you should be grateful. We in the Fu family haven't even blamed you for not being able to have children. What more could you possibly be unhappy about? At that moment, Fu Liang, who had always stayed silent, suddenly blew up. He slammed the table and shouted at me, Shin Qingqing, is this really the time for you to be throwing a tantrum? I don't care what papers or agreements you signed. I don't agree. Hurry up and take out the money to treat my son. I laughed. Did he really think he was the head of the household and that everyone had to do whatever he said? I shot him a fearless glare in return. I'm getting this divorce, no matter what. 6. You have such a cruel heart. Cough, cough, cough. Already weak, Fu Xian struggled on the bed and tugged at the tubes attached to the machines, triggering a fit of violent coughing. The three of them immediately rushed over and surrounded her, while Gu Yuyu kept patting his chest to help him catch his breath. Seeing his son in that state, the anger in his father-in-law's eyes grew even stronger. Fine, a divorce is okay, but you have to leave the money behind. That's Xian's life-saving money. You can't take it with you. Yeah, Sister Qingqing. Even if you get divorced, the assets still have to be split equally. There's no reason for you to take everything. Gu Yuyu looked slightly indignant. Standing up for Fu Xian, I'm taking all of this money with me. And I mean it. I paid in full for the house and the car. And for all these years I've covered the bulk of the household expenses. As for Fu Xian's money, he gave it to my in-laws and Gu Qingqing through one excuse or another. As long as they pool their money, covering the medical bills isn't a problem at all, and now, I've only taken what belongs to me, and they're already panicking. Why shouldn't I be able to take it? Do you think I don't know how much money Fu Xian has transferred to you over the years, especially you, Gu Yu? I have every right to get back the money that was spent on you. You've been spending his money all this time. And now that he's sick, you don't want to contribute a single cent. Where in the world is that ever justified? How dare you? The father-in-law slammed a cup hard on the table. Who gave you the right to talk to your elders like that? My son spends money on me. That's only natural. What gives you the right to lecture me? I shook my head helplessly, really not wanting to keep tangling with this bunch. Fu Xian already signed and confirmed the property division on the divorce agreement just now. Legally, that now belongs to me, so no matter what you say, it won't change a thing. As soon as I finished speaking, I turned to leave, only to find my mother-in-law blocking the doorway. You're not leaving. Hand over my son's life-saving money right now. After saying that, my father-in-law and Gu Yu also came at me with angry faces. At that critical moment, a sharp beep shattered the silence. Fu Xian's condition had worsened again, and the three of them hurried out to find a doctor. I watched Fu Xian convulsing on the bed, said he deserved it, and then left the hospital. 7. After I got home, I immediately transferred the 500,000 yuan back to my parents and told them no matter what, they must never give Fu Xian's family another cent to keep them from coming back to stir up trouble. I booked an overseas tour package and took my parents away on a trip. Only when we were truly lying on the soft bed in the hotel, thousands of miles away from Fu Xian and the others, did I finally emerge. From the shadow of my past life I took my parents, who had spent their whole lives working themselves to the bone, aboard a luxurious cruise ship, chasing whales at sea and watching the sun sink below the horizon. Although my parents disapproved of me spending money so recklessly, they were still enjoying this relaxing time. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law kept messaging me non-stop. Fu Xian is about to go into surgery. Transfer the money to me right now. Ching. Fu Xian is already this sick. How can you bear to take the money and run? Do you really want to just stand by and watch Fu Xian die? I deleted her chat thread without hesitation. What was there to bear? Ever since I discovered the scam in my past life, I had no more love for Fu Xian, no pity either, only hatred. Since I finally had the chance to go abroad, I spent every day taking my parents around to different places and trying the local food. Every day was incredibly pleasant. I didn't delete Fu Xian's family from WeChat, and watching them struggle in pain had already become one of my pleasures. At first, they took turns calling and texting me. All they ever did was call me a backstabber and ingrate, which had absolutely no effect on me. Maybe because I'd pissed him off. Fu Xian's condition was even more serious than it had been in my previous life. Fu Xian's parents and Gu Yu also had no choice but to start pooling money to pay the medical bills. But cancer treatment isn't cheap, and even after they'd spent all their savings, it still wasn't enough. Ching. We've spent all our money. For the sake of our past relationship, please just give the money back. If it really comes to it, let's just split it down the middle. We won't make a big deal out of it. I still deleted the chat and acted like I hadn't seen it. Another half-month passed, and Fu Xian's parents had completely run out of money. Even Gu Yu, who had always been glued to Fu Xian's side, had started avoiding them. In the video Fu's mother sent over, Fu Xian looked terribly gaunt, and his skin had turned deathly pale. Ching. Please, I'm begging you, just lend us some money. Fu Xian is about to start the next round of chemotherapy, and we really don't have any money left. Fu Xian's father has already gone looking for work, but that little bit of pay isn't nearly enough. We even went to ask people to lend us money, and we were turned away. We really have no options left. Seeing these messages, I didn't feel sorry for them at all. In fact, I just felt utterly satisfied. At last, they got to experience what I felt in my previous life. After that, the messages Fu's mom sent became fewer and fewer. Through a friend, I learned that in order to pay for their son's treatment, they had to go back to work, serving food, washing dishes, sweeping the streets, and take turns staying at the hospital to look after their son, so busy they barely had a moment to spare. As for Gu Yu, she never showed up again. I thought these two must have been deeply in love, but it seems that wasn't really the case. The next time I heard news of them, Fu Xian had already been discharged from the hospital. I had thought my feud with them would end there, but to my surprise, I received an invitation from a family mediation TV show. The Fu family had gone to the TV station and accused me of taking advantage of his serious illness to run off with all their money. 8. As soon as I got off the plane, I was surrounded by people from the TV station, who ushered me to the mediation stage. On the other side of the stage, the Fu family sat on the sofa with mournful expressions, as if they had been terribly wronged. welcome to our family mediation program. Today's episode is being live streamed in full, and we welcome viewers to share their thoughts in the live chat. Following the host's pointing hand, I finally noticed a huge screen in the audience area, showing the live broadcast from the stage. I let out a quiet laugh. This was exactly what I wanted. Aunt Fu, you entrusted us with helping mediate the conflict between your family and your daughter-in-law. Could you tell us in detail what exactly happened? As soon as the host finished speaking, Tao Dingxiang hurriedly jumped in. My daughter-in-law is heartless. A while ago, while my son was sick and hospitalized, she tricked him into signing a divorce agreement and an unfair property division, then took off with all the money in the family. That was my son's life-saving money. If the two of us hadn't been scrambling to borrow money everywhere and working multiple jobs, my son might have died. On the operating table, now that my son is cured, we've ended up tens of thousands in debt instead. The host must stand up for us and make this bitch give my son's money back. Tao Dingxiang's voice was thick with tears, stirring everyone's pity. Shen Qingqing is such a total piece of trash. She'd even dare steal someone's life-saving money. Why couldn't it be her who got sick instead? Exactly, that was her husband. After all, she's just too vile. Pay it back. She has to pay it back. The host said. Shen Qingqing, don't you think this is a little too far? Have you thought about how your actions could lead to Fu Xian's death? The host didn't ask for my thoughts and immediately judged the matter. I leaned back and crossed my legs. I know, but I don't think it was too much. The host froze for a moment, clearly not expecting me to react like that. The audience below immediately erupted into an uproar again. This person is way too arrogant, doing something so utterly heartless. She's simply unfit to be called human. Don't anyone stop me. I'm going up there to give her a good beating and let off some steam. Fu Liang was so infuriated by my attitude that he kept coughing, but he still didn't dare lash out in front of so many people. Tao Dingxiang hurriedly patted his back, all while not forgetting to accuse me. Qingqing, the two of us have been working from before dawn every day just to pay for Xian's treatment. Whenever we have a free moment, we're at the hospital keeping him company and taking care of him. We've worn ourselves sick from exhaustion. And yet you used Xian's money to take your parents on a trip. How can you spend that money without a guilty conscience? Please, we're begging you, just give the money back to us. Otherwise, with us being so old, how are we ever supposed to pay it back? After saying that, Tao Dingxiang even knelt down in front of me, tears streaming down onto the floor. In an instant, the whole room erupted, and a flood of viewers poured into the livestream, an elder kneeling to a younger one, a mother-in-law kneeling to her daughter-in-law. She was pretty good at playing the moral blackmail card, but I still didn't budge. Sitting calmly on the sofa, I coolly spat out 2 words, no way. There was another stir in the crowd below. One ant even snatched the microphone and went off on me with a passionate rant. Shen Qingqing, has your conscience been eaten by a dog? You can sit there and watch an old man kneel to you. Don't you even understand respecting the old and loving the young? Have you completely forgotten the 5,000-year-old traditional virtues of China? Another middle-aged man also stood up. I'll pay back everything the Fu family owes, but every penny you, Shen Qingqing, took from the Fu family has to be returned in full. As this older gentleman generously chipped in, the atmosphere on site instantly grew heated. The number of people in the live stream was also surging rapidly. 9 million. 10 million. The comments on the screen were full of accusations against me, and I smiled faintly. It was time. 9. Looks like everyone's pretty invested in this. I still have a little secret about the Fu family that they never mentioned, and I'd like to share it with you all. After hearing what I said, the expressions on the Fu family's faces immediately turned panicked. Fu Xian, who had stayed silent the whole time, finally got anxious. Shen Qingqing, what nonsense are you trying to spout now? You're not planning to spread rumors that I cheated again, are you? I'm warning you, if you don't have evidence, don't go making things up. What a classic case of the guilty party accusing others first. I handed a USB drive to the host. Of course I have proof. I'm just afraid you won't dare to look. The host, half believing and half doubting, plugged the USB drive into the computer, and a video appeared on the big screen. In the video, Fu Xian had his arm around Gu Yuyu's waist as they walked into a love hotel. The implication was obvious. The video ended with all kinds of intimate photos of Fu Qing and Gu Yuyu as well. After the video finished, I took a stack of documents out of my bag. Over the years, Fu Xian has been cheating on Gu Yuyu. Most of the money he earned was transferred to her under various pretexts, and I have records of it. The rest of Fu Xian's money was transferred to his parents. He doesn't have a single penny in his account. I've been paying for all our living expenses, and I bought the house and car in full myself. I'm just taking back what's mine. What's wrong with that? The host took the materials from my hands and projected them onto the big screen one by one, looking at all that damning evidence. The room fell silent for a full half-minute before a hushed murmur of discussion finally broke out. The husband is way out of line. Not only did he cheat, he wouldn't even spend a dime on his wife. Yeah, it looks like Shin Ching has every reason to want a divorce. What the hell? Even so, he still had no right to take someone's life-saving money. What could matter more than a human life? Fu Xian lowered his head in shame. Tao Dingxiang, however, didn't think there was anything wrong with what her son had done. So what? Those are just minor things. What you did was nearly cost my son his life. There's no comparison between the two. To put it bluntly, you're basically committing murder. The host also took her side and criticized me. Miss, Tao is right. Even if Mr. Fu cheated and gave the money to his parents, you could have gotten it back through a gentler approach. There was no need to nearly cost him his life. Exactly. A chorus of agreement rose from the crowd, and Tao Dingxiang felt even more confident after hearing it. Shin Qingqing, don't you dare try any tricks. No matter what you say today, you have to pay my money back. I ignored Tao Dingxiang's smug expression and handed the host a recording. Since you won't give up, don't blame me for being rude. The host pressed play, and the voices of Tao Dingxiang, her husband, and Fu Xian rang out over the loudspeakers, echoing into every corner of the venue. Fu Xian, the doctor said this illness looks terrifying, but there's a very good chance it can be treated. We can use this chance to make Shin Qingqing hand over the money. Once I'm cured, I'll fake my death. Mom and Dad, sue Shin Qingqing and make her pay back the money you've spent. Squeeze every last bit of value out of her. By then, our whole family can take the money and start a new life with you. The moment the recording played, the whole room erupted once again. What? Did I hear that right? Is that even something a human would do? That's downright vicious. If I were Shin Qingqing, I'd fight to protect my rightful interests too. Support Shin Qingqing. Support Shin Qingqing. Fu family, get out. The crowd below grew louder and louder, and even the host could no longer keep it under control. The middle-aged man who had just vowed to pay back the Fu family actually rushed onto the stage and started brawling with Fu Xian. I can't believe you're such trash. I can't believe I even wanted to help you just now. Fu Xian took 2 solid punches to the face and slunk off the stage in disgrace. During my vacation, I hadn't been idle either. I pulled strings everywhere before finally getting this recording from the hospital's surveillance system and exposing the Fu family's crimes to the public. Everything that happened on-site was broadcast nationwide through the livestream. Major short video accounts all posted about this incident, and it stayed at the top of the trending charts for a full week. Netizens condemned their actions in droves, and many even managed to track down the phone numbers of Fu Xian and Tao Dingxiang. A number of business owners stepped forward to say they would absolutely never hire any of the three. In no time at all, their family became public enemy number one, hated by everyone. I looked at the outcome now and smiled in satisfaction. In my last life, they ruined my family and left me with nothing. Now I'm going to make you taste the agony of being despised by the whole world. I used the remaining money to leave this city, bought a new house, and moved in with my parents even after a failed 5-year marriage. I'm only 30 now, with a bright life ahead of me. As for Fu Xian, his life was completely over. The end. That's all for the first story. Don't go away. The next one is even more exciting. Bandits raided the village, but my husband, the militia captain, took all the militiamen to the city to watch a movie with his first love. The village chief asked me to go bring my husband back, but I flatly refused. In my previous life, while pregnant, I rode a fast horse along a back road into town and dragged my husband back from the movie theater, saving the whole village. But the woman he loved was violated by a few bandits who had escaped, then thrown into the woods to be fed to the wolves. My husband hunted down those bandits and locked himself in his room for 3 days and 3 nights. When he came out, he never mentioned that incident again. It wasn't until the county appointed me to take over the position of women's director from his beloved, because of my heroic rescue, that things changed. On the day I gave birth, my husband dragged my weak, exhausted body into the woods. He broke my legs, cut open my belly, and let wild animals eat my internal organs. It was you, for your own selfish gain, who colluded with the bandits and got her killed. Since you like copying her so much, I'll make sure even the way you die is just like hers. I opened my eyes again and found myself back on the day the bandits came to the village. This time, he wants to protect his unattainable crush, so let him. When the gunshots rang out, I was reborn. I hurried outside, and just as I opened the door, the village chief rushed in. Ming Yang, the bandits are here. Hurry up and wake your man, then organize the militia to protect the villagers. Before I could say a word, I heard the village chief's wife from behind me. Oldly, we looked everywhere, The strong men in the village are all gone, and the guns from the militia office are missing too. Looking up, I saw most of the village women following behind her, their faces etched with fear. The village chief was stunned. Where did they all go? As the only one who knew what was going on, I had no choice but to tell them. They all went off with Shuangsua to watch a movie with Bai Shui. Nonsense, the village chief frowned. The county just issued a notice saying there's been a serious uptick in bandits roaming the area, and the militia needs to step up patrols, yet they actually abandoned their posts to go watch a movie. Hearing this, several women also cursed Bai Shui for being shameless, for luring so many men out of the village. As they were speaking, a few more gunshots rang out. Everyone screamed. The village chief stayed calm in the face of danger. The men left in the village should go shut the big stone gate first. The women should take cover in the tunnel. Don't come out unless you hear the voices of our own people. The village's location was special. There were 2 roads leading into the village, one being the main road everyone usually took. At the entrance to the village stands a huge stone gate, left behind by our ancestors. There are mountains here, people are poor, and bandits are everywhere. That stone gate was built to keep the bandits out. Once it's shut, it's very hard to open again. There's also a back path behind the mountain. That path winds and twists through treacherous terrain. One careless step and you could tumble off the mountain. So even though you could ride a horse to the county seat in half an hour, hardly anyone ever takes it. After explaining all this, the village chief turned to me. Ming Yang, you know how to ride a horse, and you've taken that back path before. Hurry and take the trail behind the mountain to find your man and have him bring the militia back to save everyone. I bit my lip. Village chief, it's not that I don't want to go, I'm just afraid that even if I do, Shuangsua still won't come back. As soon as he said that, everyone fell silent. Ever since Bai Shui came to our village as the women's director, my husband had been staring at her like his eyes were glued to her. Everyone in the village knew we fought every day because of her. Just when the stares from everyone were making my face burn, my sister-in-law stepped in to save me. I'll go, I've traveled that road too, and besides, my sister-in-law is pregnant. Don't let this cause her to miscarry. As soon as the village chief nodded, my sister-in-law rushed home and left on horseback. The village chief's wife then led us into the tunnel to wait for rescue. An hour and a half later, my sister-in-law came back. When she appeared at the tunnel entrance, everyone cheered, thinking the militia had all returned, but to everyone's surprise, she said with a pale face, the men don't want to come back. Everyone was stunned. Why? The little sister-in-law burst into tears. They said I was spreading rumors, especially my brother. He said my sister-in-law and I were trying to trick everyone together. I even knelt down, but they still called me shameless. No one knew how much she had been put through. As soon as she finished, she cried even harder, moved by the little sister-in-law's emotions. Everyone started cursing Bai Shui as a scourge. She was supposed to be the women's director, yet she didn't lift a finger for women at all. She spent all day just circling around those men. Before they even finished cursing, there was a loud boom outside. Everyone stood up. Not knowing what had happened, the village chief appeared at the entrance to the tunnel and told everyone that the bandits had brought a landmine and were preparing to blow open the great stone gate. What are we supposed to do? Someone said through tears. Are we going to die here? Looking at the fear on everyone's faces, I thought it over. If our village militia doesn't come back, we can go find another village militia. I'll go. My sister-in-law hadn't even finished wiping away her tears when she immediately set off, but it wasn't long before everyone noticed she was limping. After forcing her to sit down, they rolled up her trouser legs. Both of her calves were swollen like steamed buns. Only then did she sheepishly admit that she had been riding too fast earlier and had accidentally fallen off. It's fine, I can still walk. My sister-in-law was dead set on saving everyone and forced herself to try to stand up. I held her down at once. You're not going. I am. Ignoring everyone's attempts to stop me, I swung myself onto the horse. The village chief came running after me. Ming Yang, you have to bring people back within 2 hours. Dashaman can't hold out much longer. I nodded firmly. We were only halfway down the road when someone suddenly rushed out in front of us. I pulled the reins in time. Once I made out who it was, my eyes lit up. It turned out to be Dafu, the militia captain from the neighboring village. I quickly dismounted and said in surprise, Dafu, what are you doing here? I was just about to talk about what was going on in the village. He suddenly grabbed my arm and pinned me down. Dafu gave a cold laugh. We've been waiting to catch you. My arm went numb. What do you mean? Aren't you going to find the bandits? Go. Dafu looked at me with obvious disgust. Your man came looking for me early this morning and had me lie in wait for you here, saying you'd definitely take this road to go looking for the bandits. Wu Mingyang, your father was a hero in the campaign against bandits, and you've gone and hooked up with them just because you're jealous. You've really disgraced him. My mind went blank with a buzzing sound. It was clearly Chinese. But it took me a long time to realize what he meant in my previous life. When Zhang Shuangsua killed me, he said the same thing. He claimed I was the one who called the bandits into the village, just so I could make a name for myself and steal Bai Shui's position as the women's director. He said I ordered the bandits to violate Bai Shui in that instant. I also realized that Zhang Shuangsua had likely been reborn too. That was why no matter how my little sister-in-law begged him, he still wouldn't come back. But he'd gone so far that he even blocked off the only way to ask for help. With no time to respond to the slander he hurled at me, I lowered myself and said, "De Fu, I'm not in league with the bandits. I came here because the bandits have broken into our village, and they're using explosives to blow up the big stone gate. The village militia has all been taken away by Zhang Shuangsua to watch a movie with Bai Shui. Hurry up and organize the militia in your village to come rescue people in ours. If you're late, the whole village will be wiped out." Maybe my expression was too grave, and Gaddafi froze for a few seconds. Soon he burst out laughing. "Wu Mingyang, you're really good at acting. You almost had me fooled, but you actually said Shuang. It's too fake that Locke ditched his duties just to take a woman to the movies with a bunch of militiamen. I know better than anyone what kind of man Shuang Sua is. He's so responsible, and he's a veteran. How could he lack even that much awareness?" Mocking me like that, I felt like my heart was being cut to pieces. "I'm telling the truth. If you don't believe me, go take a look. I think you're trying to trick me into leaving so you can go find the bandits yourself." Gaddafi waved his hand and said to me solemnly, "Wu Mingyang, stop being so stubborn. Do you know why I'm the only one standing here? It's because Shuangsua asked me to talk some sense into you and get you back on the right path. He loves you. Otherwise he would have reported this to the police station long ago, and you'd have been arrested by now. Zhang Shuangsua loves me. Before Bai Shui showed up, I believed that he and my younger aunt were rescued by my father from a bandit lair. Back then, both of his parents had been killed by the bandits. He was only 10 when he came to my home. We grew up together. When he was 16, my father was killed in revenge by bandits, and with his dying breath, he entrusted me to him. He agreed later. When he was going to join the army, he told me to wait for him. He served in the army for 5 years. And I waited for him for 5 years, with my sister-in-law by my side. When he finally came back, we got married, but he had always been lukewarm toward me. Everyone told me it was because we had known each other for so long, that this was just how an old married couple was, bored and unexciting. I believed them. It wasn't until Bai Shui appeared that I realized Zhang Sua's eyes could light up too. He would help her with the farm work, stare at her in her dress for long stretches, and secretly save up money to buy her face cream. Thinking of that, my heart ached again. But now wasn't the time to feel sad over matters of the heart. Since Gaddafi wouldn't help, I'd have to go a little farther. There's a garrison post 20 kilometers away. My riding is better than most men's. As long as I ride fast enough, I can definitely make it there within an hour. There was still hope for the village. Just as I was about to swing myself onto the horse, Gaddafi grabbed me again. "Are you going to find the bandits? If you won't help, I'll go find someone who will." I struggled against his grip. "Get lost. You're not allowed to go." With a hard yank from Gaddafi, my arm came out of its socket. He took out a rope, tied me up, and dragged me toward his village. I was so anxious I was on the verge of tears. "Gaddafi, let me go. I need to go save everyone." "Cut the crap." Gaddafi lifted me onto a horse. "As long as I'm here, you're not going anywhere today." He led the horse back toward his village. As soon as they reached the village entrance, they saw several men from the militia running out with guns in hand. Gaddafi hurriedly asked what had happened. "Someone saw that Sherman village was surrounded by bandits. We're going to save them." Gaddafi turned as white as a sheet. When the group arrived at Sherman village, they were all stunned. The large stone gate had been blown open with explosives. The bandits were nowhere to be found. The bodies of the village chief and several older men lay on the ground. It was clear that a fierce battle had taken place here. As soon as I saw the blood on the ground, tears began to fall. We'd still arrived one step too late. Seeing this, Gaddafi trembled all over. The other militia members also grew solemn. After searching the area, they found that only men had been killed, no women. Then they turned back and asked me where the tunnel was. When trouble came, the men stood up and the women hid in the tunnel. That was the understanding among the villages. I pointed to the spot. When the tunnel entrance was opened, everyone was shocked again. Everyone was gone. Damn it, they must have been kidnapped by bandits. What on earth are these ruthless bastards going to do with so many women they've taken? What else? Sell them, of course. In those days, women were worth more than men. Thinking of what might have happened to them, everyone kicked the wall in rage. I was overwhelmed with grief. Just then, Gaddafi, who had said nothing all this time, suddenly grabbed me by the collar and shouted, "Where did the bandits go?" I shook my head. "I don't know. The others were startled by his expression and came over to pull at his hand. Dafu, what are you talking about? How would she know where the bandits went? We should still go to the police station. She's in cahoots with the bandits. Gaddafi's shout changed everyone's expression at once. My heart sank, and I hurriedly defended myself. No, no, I'm not. You still dare to lie. Furious, Gaddafi raised his hand and slapped me across the face. How much longer are you going to keep pretending to be innocent? These are hundreds of lives we're talking about. Tell me, where did you hide them? The few militiamen left all looked hostile, glaring at me with hatred. How can there be such a cruel woman like you? Sherman Village has been more than kind to you, and you still go around hurting people like this. Aren't you afraid of getting struck by lightning? Just tell us already. If we go after them now, we might still catch up. I don't know. I really don't. No, my face was burning, and even my voice had turned hoarse. A wave of despair swept over me. I couldn't understand what I had to do before these people would believe me. If only the bandits really were someone I knew, then I could find the people from the village. But in Gaddafi's eyes, my tears were just an act. His eyes were red with rage, and he was beside himself. He lifted his foot and kicked me in the stomach. You bitch, go to hell. A sharp pain clenched my lower abdomen, leaving my whole body weak and limp. I felt a warm flow seeping out from below me. Before I could even see what was happening, more kicks came crashing down on me. They cursed at me, calling me less than human and saying I was utterly heartless. In the face of their abuse, the pain left me unable to fight back. That warm flow was still running down my legs. I knew it was nothing else. It was my child. Just when I thought I was going to be kicked to death by them, a voice rang out. Stop. The men stopped. Someone rushed over and hugged me. I caught the scent on her. It was my sister-in-law. Tears streamed down my sister-in-law's face. What right do you have to hit my sister-in-law? Gaddafi said hoarsely. Shuangshu, stop protecting her. She's the one who brought the bandits here. Impossible, my sister-in-law shouted. Gaddafi, do you know who the bandit coming here is? It's Yan Yunqing. As soon as that name was mentioned, everyone froze. Yan Yunqing was no ordinary man. My dad was the one who took down that notorious bandit back in the day. Back then, my dad went undercover in his bandit lair and, on his own, brought down everything he had spent his life building. Because of my dad, Yan Yunqing lost an arm, and his wife and children were killed by my dad. He once vowed that sooner or later, he would wipe out my entire family. So even if I were willing to team up with Yan Yunqing, the first time Yan Yunqing saw me, he'd only shoot me dead. At the same time, a rush of chaotic footsteps broke out behind me. Zhang Shuangsua's voice reached my ears. What is going on? Looking back, I saw that all the men in the village had returned. Seeing the bodies lying scattered everywhere, everyone turned pale, especially after learning that their wives had been taken by the bandits. The men went completely berserk. Zhang Shuangsua, didn't you say there were no bandits and tell us not to get involved? What on earth is going on? How could my dad be dead? The village chief's son was the most agitated. With bloodshot eyes, he grabbed Zhang Shuangsua by the collar, as if he wanted to tear him apart. Bai Shui defended Zhang Shuangsua from the side. Brotherly, the bandits weren't brought here by Shuangsua. Right now, the urgent thing is to find the others, those people, he said, wiping away his tears, then took a few men to the county police station to file a report. Since the bandits left with so many people, it was impossible for no one to notice. Some of the others went to a few nearby villages to ask whether there were any witnesses. Gaddafi began dealing with the village chief and the others' bodies. Zhang Shuangsua stood there the whole time, looking utterly frustrated. Bai Shui comforted him. Shuangsua, don't blame yourself too much. You can only blame the bandits for this, but our village is so poor. How did they even find their way here? Bai Shui's words hit Zhang Shuangsua right where it hurt. I was lying on the ground now, and the pain in my lower abdomen was getting worse and worse. My sister-in-law noticed something was off with my face and asked what was wrong. Before I could say anything, Zhang Shuangsua strode over and planted his foot on my chest. My sister-in-law gasped, brother, have you lost your mind? There's an injury on my sister-in-law's body. She's not fit to be your sister-in-law. Zhang Shuangsua glared with fury. Wu Mingyang, you're really too disappointing. I already had to stop you, and you still went and brought them here. Brother, what are you talking nonsense about? These bandits weren't brought here by sister-in-law. Gaddafi also ran over, his face full of guilt. Yeah, Shuangsua, this has definitely got nothing to do with Mingyang. Enough, Zhang Shuangsua roared. What kind of spell has she cast on you that you'd speak up for her like this? These are dozens of living, breathing people's lives. Dozens of lives, for crying out loud. Bai Shui covered her mouth. Mingyang, it really was you who did this. Why would you do something like that? Are you jealous of me and Shuangsua? But there's really nothing between us. We're just comrades in the revolution. Don't insult comrades in the revolution, the younger sister-in-law said righteously. Anyone can tell you've got feelings for my brother. You're nothing but a homewrecker. Shut up. Zhang Shuangxua flew into a rage and slapped his younger sister-in-law. What kind of benefits did Wu Mingyang give you that you'd even say something like this? Don't tell me. He narrowed his eyes. Does this bandit have something to do with you too? His sister-in-law was furious enough to faint. Brother, what are you talking about? Do you even know this bandit is? Captain. Before either of them could finish, two people hurriedly cut in. Someone said they saw the bandit running west. To the west was a steep mountain, and it wasn't far away with so many people with him. He must have run into the mountains. Zhang Shuangxua immediately slung his rifle over his shoulder. Follow me. As he was leaving, he glanced back at me. Wu Mingyang. I'll settle accounts with you when I get back. Sister-in-law, ignore him. Once he meets Yan Yunqing, he'll naturally know it wasn't you. Her words gave me no comfort at all. The government had been looking for Yan Yunqing for so many years and still hadn't found him. I didn't catch him in my last life. Will I catch him this time? A stabbing pain in my abdomen cut off my thoughts, and I asked my sister-in-law to help me up. Her own leg was still injured, and no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't budge me at all. Gaddafi, help my sister-in-law up, quick. At my sister-in-law's order, Gaddafi ran over. He grabbed me by both arms and lifted me up. Mingyang, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have. His voice cut off abruptly when he saw the huge pool of black blood on the ground. How could there be so much blood? At that moment, I didn't even look to see how large a pool of blood it was to shock him so much, because I had exhausted my very last bit of strength. Everything went black, and I passed out. When I woke up, I was already in the hospital. I was the only one in the hospital room outside. My sister-in-law was arguing with Gaddafi. The baby my sister-in-law finally managed to conceive, and you kicked it out of her. You really are a beast. Gaddafi's voice was hoarse. I'm sorry, I was wrong. I looked down at my flat stomach. Even though I had already felt this child leave me, I still couldn't accept the fact. Zhang Shuangxua, my sister-in-law, and I could all be considered orphans. The three of us grew up depending on one another. We comforted one another, yet longed desperately for family affection. The day he found out I was pregnant, Zhang Shuangxua was so happy he could barely get the words out. He rode into the county town to buy me 2 pounds of meat and said I was the family's great hero. It was the most delicious meat I had ever eaten. Back then, I truly believed that having this child would change the relationship between Zhang Shuangxua and me. But in my previous life, after the baby was born, Zhang Shuangxua only glanced at it before giving it away. Ignoring my cries, he dragged me into the woods where Shuebai had died and brutally slit open my belly. Memories came flooding back. I heard the sound of a knife slicing through skin beside my ear. I couldn't help shivering. Sister-in-law, what's wrong? My sister-in-law's voice pulled me back to reality. Looking up, I saw Gaddafi standing in front of me with red, swollen eyes. He was actually crying. Not only was he crying, but in the next second, Gaddafi knelt down in front of me. Mingyang, I'm the one who ruined your child's life. Hit me, curse me, do whatever you want. As long as you can let it go, I'd be willing to work like a slave for you. Gaddafi and Zhang Shuangxua had once been classmates. He was an upright, warm-hearted man. When Zhang Shuangxua went off to join the army, he had helped me out quite a bit. Even during the busy farming season, he would always finish the work in my family's fields before tending to his own. I've always treated him with the same respect I'd give an older brother, otherwise Zhang Shuangxua wouldn't have asked him to come talk to me. I let out a sigh. Dafu, it's okay. I know you were only trying to help because you were worried, but you went about it the wrong way. Hearing that, Gaddafi only felt even more guilty. He raised his hand and slapped himself several times. Mingyang, you should still blame me. The less you blame me, the worse I feel. He knew. For someone like him, after seeing that pool of blood, this guilt would stay with him for the rest of his life. I didn't know what I could say to comfort him. After all, I was upset too. Dafu, I called out to him. Could you do me a favor? Go ahead, help me file a complaint with the county, I said in a low voice. Zhang Shuangxua, the militia captain of Sherman village, was negligent in his duties while in office, and even took the militia to watch a movie with his lover, which led to the deaths of more than a dozen people in Sherman village and the arrest of the women comrades. Gaddafi and my sister-in-law both stared wide-eyed. Just when I thought they would speak up for Zhang Shuangxua, Gaddafi nodded vigorously. Okay, I'll go right now. After he left, the room fell silent. My sister-in-law poured me a cup of hot water. I took it and couldn't help asking, Shuangshu, you don't blame me, do you? My sister-in-law answered a different question. Sister-in-law, do you know how I managed to stay? It was after I left that the village women discovered she hadn't just broken her leg. There was also a long slash across her back from a tree branch, blood trickling down in streams. It was a horrifying sight. When the village doctor saw her like that, He said it wouldn't do. If this went on, the wound would get infected, so, risking her life, she took her sister-in-law back to her own home to apply medicine. In that brief opening, the bandits opened the huge stone gate. They searched from house to house. When they got to the village doctor's house, the sister-in-law accidentally made a sound to protect her. The village doctor rushed out. Her sister-in-law was in tears, her face drenched. Those beasts raped her right in front of me. She was already in such pain, and yet she didn't say a single word. It was also then that she saw Yanshan Qing. She had spent 10 months in Qingzhai village in Yanshan. That face was one she'd recognize even if it were ground to ash. My sister-in-law trembled in my arms as she cried, "Sister-in-law, those bandits were just a ragtag bunch. If my brother had brought people back sooner, the doctor wouldn't have been violated, and the village head and the others wouldn't have died. You did the right thing. My brother is the one who failed to do his duty." I held her and cried too. My sister-in-law could make sense of it, but unfortunately some people couldn't. That same day, Zhang Shuangsua stormed into my hospital room. "Wu Mingyang, what do you mean by sending Gaddafi to report me to the county? Do you know I was just about to find those bandits?" That was when I learned Zhang Shuangsua had spent the whole day searching the mountains. Just as he finally uncovered a little clue, someone else took over the case. He was publicly criticized by the leaders for being brainless, stripped of his post as village brigade leader, and barred from getting involved in the matter. He was driven straight down the mountain with Bai Shui. "You're so malicious, using such tactics to interfere in this." He yanked me up from the hospital bed, looking like he wanted to tear me apart. I hadn't even spoken yet. Bai Shui also came in from outside. "Mingyang, you're really being so childish. By doing this, you didn't just ruin Shuangsua's future, you've also harmed everyone in the village. Besides him, who else could find that gang of bandits?" The two of them took turns pinning all the blame on me. I let out a cold laugh. "Zhang Shuangsua, was it me who stopped you from coming back to save the villagers? Back then, even Shuangshu knelt before you. Why didn't you come back? Now that the higher-ups are blaming us, you're putting it all on me. Isn't that a little unreasonable? How dare you say that?" Zhang Shuangsua grabbed my throat directly. "If you hadn't lured these bandits here, how could the village have, like this, with everyone's lives hanging in the balance? And you still have the nerve to pretend to be sick." He flung his hand aside. I was thrown hard to the ground. My tailbone slammed into the floor, and the pain shot all the way up my spine to the top of my head. Just then, my younger sister-in-law came rushing back. "Sister-in-law," she rushed over and slapped Zhang Shuangsua across the face. "Zhang Shuangsua, are you out of your mind? Zhang Shushu, you're joining her in this nonsense too. Are you involved with the bandits as well? Involved with your mother's ass?" My younger sister-in-law finally snapped. "Do you even know who that bandit is?" "That's Yun Qing." As soon as that name was mentioned, the whole room fell silent. Zhang Shuangsua looked as if someone had struck a fatal pressure point. Even his breathing stopped. "Yun Qing, the man who killed all 3 of our parents." Even if I really had dealings with the bandits, I still wouldn't go looking for this man. A few minutes later, Zhang Shuangsua's face looked like it was about to split open. What? How is that possible?" "It's true." The younger sister-in-law's tears fell again. "I saw his face with my own eyes. Brother, Yan Yunqing must be back for revenge." "So, brother, you see now, this has nothing to do with my sister-in-law." The younger sister-in-law stood up for me. "You should listen to that foul-mouthed woman less in your day-to-day life. Don't keep blaming your sister-in-law without knowing the facts. Because of this, my sister-in-law even lost the child, and you didn't even say a word of concern." "What?" Zhang Shuangsua's face turned pale again. "The baby is gone." He looked at me, his eyes full of disbelief. I lowered my head and glanced at my stomach. It was already flat at that moment. Bai Shui stepped forward. "It's all my fault, Shuangsua. If I hadn't insisted on going to the movies, none of this would have happened. I'm the sinner here. I've harmed both of your children." As soon as she started crying, Zhang Shuangsua was instantly filled with concern. "This has nothing to do with you. If anyone's to blame, it's her for not protecting the baby." Every word he used to comfort Bai Shui was like a knife, stabbing straight into my heart. Even my sister-in-law couldn't bear to listen anymore. "Brother, how can you say something like that? My sister-in-law lost her baby while trying to save someone. She says she was saving someone, but who knows what she was really thinking." Zhang Shuangsua said with disgust. "Wu Mingyang, you did so many outrageous things because you were jealous. Even if you didn't conspire with Yan Qingshan, you were the one who brought him here." I'd had enough. "Zhang Shuangsua, you keep saying I'm bullying Bai Shui, then let me ask you, what exactly have I done to bully her?" Zhang Shuangsua took a deep breath. "Since you want to bring up the past, then let me ask you this. Why did you get all the women in the village to isolate her?" That was utterly baffling. I thought about it for a long time, but I still couldn't figure out who had isolated her. Instead, It was my sister-in-law who jumped out and said, "Who isolated her? She's the one who looks down on talking to us women, she only likes hanging out with men." Shuangshu, how can you slander my innocence like this? Bai Shui was displeased when she heard that. She tugged at Zhang Shuangsua's sleeve. "Shuangsua, it looks like they still don't welcome me. I'd better go back." Having learned from my past life, Zhang Shuangsua couldn't possibly bear to let her go home alone, so he immediately said he would see her back. But just as the two of them reached the entrance, two uniformed men blocked their way. One of them knew Zhang Shuangsua and asked right away, "Shuangsua, where's that woman from your village named Bai Shui? Someone said she came to the hospital with you." The two policemen looked pretty intimidating. After Bai Shui met their eyes, she couldn't help trembling all over. Zhang Shuangsua stepped in front of her and asked, "Aren't you supposed to be up in the mountains cracking down on bandits? What are you looking for her for?" "We've caught Yan Yunqing," the man said excitedly. According to what his men confessed, this time the tip came from Yan Yunqing's little wife, and his little wife is Bai Shui, the women's director in your village. Zhang Shuangsua went rigid. "You must have made a mistake, right?" The other guy told him that Yan Yunqing and the others had originally planned to take the women from our village away and sell them. Unexpectedly, halfway there, the women from our village started fighting back. We all came from the fields, and since it looked like we were dead either way, we figured we might as well fight for it. By the time they got there, Yan Yunqing had been beaten to within an inch of his life by several men. The few underlings Yan Yunqing had just taken in were all a bunch of cowards. They had only just arrived, and before anyone even asked, they spilled everything. After Yan Yunqing ran off that year, he drifted from place to place. He met Bai Shui 5 years ago. Bai Shui was drawn to the outlaw aura about him and was dead set on marrying him later. When she heard Yan Yunqing was looking for us again, Bai Shui used her connections to get into the government. Back then, to protect us, the organization concealed our family information. They changed our names and sent us to Sherman village. After searching the records for a long time, Shui Bai actually found every single file on us. She went to great lengths to transfer herself over and become the women's director. During that time, she deliberately got close to Zhang Shuangsua, just waiting for this day, so Yan Yunqing could get revenge and they could make some extra money on the side, and then they'd be heading abroad to live it up. After hearing the truth, Zhang Shuangsua's legs went weak. The person next to him helped him steady himself. "What's wrong with you?" Zhang Shuangsua turned to ask Shui Bai. "Is what he said all true?" "No, I don't know any Yan Yunqing." Shui Bai shook her head vigorously, like a rattle drum. "Shuangsua, believe me, this is not, it must be another one of Ming Yang's schemes. How could I possibly know that ruthless bandit?" I let out a cold laugh. If Zhang Shuangsua still believed her nonsense by now, then he didn't deserve to be called a man. Zhang Shuangsua indeed didn't believe her, but for a moment, he still couldn't accept it. Bai Shui took advantage of the others not paying attention and bolted like a rabbit. Unfortunately, everyone behind her was a skilled fighter. Before long, 2 police officers caught her and put handcuffs on her. Bai Shui and Zhang Shuangsua were both taken away. They would both have to undergo an investigation, because it involved that ruthless bandit, Yan Yunqing. The county attached great importance to it. After months of back-and-forth hearings, the case was finally investigated thoroughly. It turned out Zhang Shuangsua had been deceived by others, and he had nothing to do with Yan Yunqing. Yan Yunqing and Bai Shui were both sentenced to death. The day Zhang Shuangsua was released, my sister-in-law and I went to pick him up. We hadn't seen him for nearly half a year, and his hair had turned white. He was terribly thin. Once such a swaggering man, he was now hunched over, looking utterly lacking in confidence. He hadn't expected me to come. Seeing me, he was very surprised. "Ming Yang, how have you been these days?" I said. "Pretty good." My sister-in-law and I took him to take a bath, got him a change of clothes, and then went to a state-run restaurant for a meal. Halfway through the meal, my sister-in-law could tell he had something he wanted to say to me, so she made up an excuse and slipped out. "Ming Yang." After I had waited a long time, Zhang Shuangsua's low, heavy voice finally broke the silence. "I'm sorry, I was bewitched by Bai Shui at the time. I should have brought them back, so none of this would have happened." "Ming Yang, I've thought a lot about these past days. I thought about many things from our childhood. Back then, you were always so good to me, but I took all that kindness for granted. I'm sorry to you. Sorry to our child. From now on, I'll live properly with you and we can have another child." As he said this, Zhang Shuangsua's eyes were red, his gaze filled with sincerity. "We've known each other for so many years. How could I not know his remorse was genuine?" But I smiled and said to him, "Zhang Shuangsua, let's get divorced." Zhang Shuangsua's expression froze instantly. It took him a while before he finally said, "No, don't, Ming Yang. I already said it, this is all. If it hadn't been for Bai Shue's scheme, I would definitely have come back to save you all if I had another chance. I stared at his face. You've already gotten a second chance, haven't you? Zhang Shuangsua's eyes widened. Why you? Yes, I've been reborn too. I poured myself a glass of water, so there's no need for me to remind you what you did to me in my previous life either. Zhang Shuangsua's face turned ashen. He raised a glass of water and splashed it across his own face with a bitter smile. He said, The heavens really are fair, Mingyang. Actually, in my last life, the one I loved was you too. It was only after I found Bai Shui that I caught a remnant of the bandits, and he said all of this was done by you. I had already guessed that long ago. No matter how confused Zhang Shuangsua may be, he was educated by the state. He couldn't possibly kill someone for no reason in the end. It all came down to the fact that he didn't trust me. In a marriage, a lack of trust is more terrifying than a lack of love. Besides, we had known each other for so many years. I asked him, my father and mother both died at the hands of bandits. Even if I, Wu Mingyang, have to starve to death in this life, I would never side with them. Zhang Shuangsua, you've really disappointed me. His lips moved. In the end, he only said one thing, I'm sorry. It's fine. I took a deep breath, because I don't intend to forgive you. In the end, I still divorced Zhang Shuangsua. After taking care of the paperwork, I boarded a train headed south. I heard the country there was opening up and reforming, so I decided to go and try my luck. That one leap turned into 5 years. I rode the wave of the times and made a fortune. When I returned home in glory, I learned what had become of Zhang Shuangsua. He was dead. He died during an anti-bandit campaign just like my father. Story 2. After my confession to Sui failed, I was sent abroad by the Su family. On the day I returned to the country, everyone was afraid that I would get close to Sui again. Even he himself said, the biggest stain in my life is being liked by my adopted sister. To guard against me, they introduced many girls to Sui. Sui accepted them all. With his arm around the waist of those girls, he said lightly to others, if Huan can put away her inappropriate thoughts, I wouldn't mind her coming back. He seemed to think that I still couldn't forget him, but this time I came back to the country. It was really just to get married to someone else. When I appeared at the door of the private room, the air around instantly froze. Sui had just rejected a girl who wanted to give him a kiss because she lost a truth or dare game. He was leaning on the sofa, lazy and self-satisfied, until someone blurted out a swear word first. Damn it, why is Ning Huan back? Only then did everyone come to their senses and stepped forward in unison, blocking Sui behind them. Just like many years ago, they looked at me with embarrassed smiles. When did you come back, sister? You should have said something so that we brothers could pick you up. Why did you find this place by yourself? Have you eaten? Do you want to come in and have some snacks? I stood still, looked at the nameplate of the private room, and smiled slightly. No need, I got the wrong place. The few people blocking the door of the private room subconsciously let out a sigh of relief. Just as they were about to say something more, a sneer came from inside. Sui reached out and put his arm around the waist of the girl in front of him, whose eyes were filled with tears. Pulling her into his arms, he pinched her chin and kissed her. Take a breath. How can a girl be the one to ask for a kiss? His voice was lazy, and the girl in his arms was extremely shy. She grabbed his collar, trembling and nervously said, Brother E, can I be your girlfriend? Sui didn't say anything. Instead, he glanced at me lightly and then deepened the kiss, giving the answer. With his actions, the girl was extremely excited, and the others in the private room also started to cheer. I lowered my head to look at the time, turned around to leave, but was called out from behind. Ning Huan. I subconsciously turned around, and Sui walked out of the private room. After 3 years of not seeing each other, his face still hadn't changed at all. He was holding a cigarette between his fingertips, and his tone was flat. When did you come back? Yesterday. Why didn't you go home? I didn't say anything. Since you're back, don't run around, go back and see your parents. I still didn't respond. Instead, I looked down at the watch on my wrist, and my eyes couldn't help showing anxiety. Is there anything else? Suyi's eyes fell on my wrist, and he slightly frowned. Where's the bracelet? I was slightly stunned. Then I remembered something. My face showed mockery. I put it away. 3 years ago, when a boy confessed to me, Sui didn't say anything after he found out. He just took the lead in beating up that boy. Then, without saying a word, he took out the Su family's ancestral bracelet and put it on me. The frown on Suyi's face relaxed, and his tone was calm. It's just a small thing, you don't have to cherish it so much. Next time, Brother E. Before Sui could finish speaking, a clear voice interrupted from the side. The girl in the private room ran out. She stepped forward and took Suyi's arm, then reached out her hand to me, smiling brightly. You're Huan, right? Hello. I'm Ruan Ro, you can call me Ro, or you can call me sister-in-law. She seemed a little embarrassed. When she said the last two words, she shyly looked up at Sui. I really didn't have enough time. If I was any later, that man would really get angry. I didn't have time to be a part of the two of them's show. I quickly nodded to her and greeted, hello. Then I turned around and walked around them, hurrying forward. Before reaching the corner, I saw Jean Tingzhou leaning against the doorframe. He was dressed in black, with a straight nose, his eyes were hidden in the dim light, and his emotions were indistinguishable. His thin lips exposed under the light had a beautiful and sharp line. I quickly took a step towards him, took out the gift in my pocket. Happy birthday. His eyes slowly moved down. You're late. I looked at the watch on my wrist. At this time, the hour hand had already pointed to 0. Today had passed. Annoyance flashed across my eyes. If it weren't for those two people who had just delayed my time, I wouldn't have missed it at all. Jean Tingzhou put his arm around my waist, pressed down with a hint of punishment. The flight was originally scheduled for 9 a.m., and I could have come back and had lunch with Jean Tingzhou before noon, but because of some sudden matters at school, I was delayed, and I didn't rush back until evening. I promised to have dinner with him, but then I encountered something on the way. It was already like this after all the twists and turns. The food had already cooled down, but the temperature in the air was rising steadily. He suppressed the affection in his eyes, picked me up in his arms, and carried me out of the private room. It was a bit cool outside. Jean Tingzhou picked up the clothes on the sofa and covered my head with them. The scent of cedar entered my nose, tugging at my heartstrings. A low-key and luxurious Maybach was parked by the road. When we were about to approach it, a surprised and familiar voice sounded. Tingzhou, when did you come back? Not far away. Sui came over with his arm around Wan Ro's waist. His tone was full of surprise. Even through the clothes, I could feel his curiosity. Jean Tingzhou just glanced at him lightly. Just came back, Sui joked. Good brother, have you finally awakened? Let me see who this beauty is. As he spoke, Sui took a step forward, wanting to reach out and pull the clothes off my head. I was lying on Jean Tingzhou's shoulder and subconsciously grabbed his collar tightly. Sui's hand didn't touch Jean Tingzhou's clothes. Jean Tingzhou just looked at him, and Sui finally withdrew his hand. All right, seeing how precious you are to her, I won't delay your good deed. Remember to bring her out and introduce her to us next time. Jean Tingzhou didn't say anything. He carried me into the back seat of the car. Jean Tingzhou was a well-known second-generation rich in Shengjing. He was also Sui's best friend. In the past, I could always see Jean Tingzhou and Sui coming to the Su family to play. Although the two were good friends, for some reason, I always felt that Jean Tingzhou had an inexplicable sense of distance from Sui. Later I found out the real intention lay elsewhere. The day after my failed confession to Sui, the day the Su family sent me abroad, Jean Tingzhou chased after me. The car slowly drove towards the villa. I maintained my position, lying on Jean Tingzhou's shoulder. The partition in the back seat of the car rose. His hand slowly moved up, and the cold touch made my breath tighten involuntarily. My hair was tangled on his face, and his eyes darkened. His slender neck was exposed. The delicate skin was rubbed bit by bit, making my body tremble involuntarily. The distance from the club to Jean Tingzhou's villa was not short. Jean Tingzhou knocked on the front partition, and the driver understood and parked the car by the road and left. The temperature in the car rose little by little with the air conditioner. I bit my lip, trying hard to hold back and not make a sound. Jean Tingzhou, however, deliberately asked in my ear, why aren't you talking? Are you uncomfortable? I opened my mouth, wanting to say something, but the next second I was hit hard. It all turned into a whimper. I don't know how long it took, but Jean Tingzhou finally stopped. His handsome face showed satisfaction under the dim interior light of the car. He held me and gently wiped me bit by bit. I picked up the phone that was thrown aside and took a look. I found that there were 2 text messages on the phone. They were sent by Sui. The first one was a video. When I clicked it, it was a picture of Sui drinking with everyone in the private room. Sui was holding a cigarette between his fingertips, leaning on the chair with a calm expression, and saying to others, the biggest stain in my life is being liked by my adopted sister. If Huan can put away her inappropriate thoughts, I wouldn't mind her coming back. Just 2 short sentences. If I had seen them 3 years ago, I might have been so heartbroken that I couldn't breathe, but now I glanced at the second text message. Sister, I heard that you have the bracelet left by the Su family for their daughter-in-law. Remember to send it back when you have time. Don't covet things that don't belong to you. It's time to return it to its rightful owner. This wasn't Sui's tone. It was obvious who sent these 2 text messages. The Su family's parents finally found out the news of my return to the country. Coincidentally, it was Mrs. Su's birthday party, and Mrs. Su called me and asked me to go home. I was silent for a while, then nodded and agreed. When I arrived, many guests had already come to the Su family 3 years ago. the news that the adopted daughter of the Su family had overestimated herself and like the only heir of the Su family was known throughout Shengjing. When I appeared at the door of the banquet, the surrounding gazes all gathered on me at once. There were surprise, a desire to watch the show. Disdain. Wan-ro was fawning over Mrs. Su, but Mrs. Su was a bit indifferent to her, but when I appeared, she turned around and took Wan-ro's hand, smiling happily. Then she looked at me in surprise. Huan is back. Come to mom quickly, let me introduce you. This is your brother's girlfriend. She emphasized the words, your brother's girlfriend, very strongly. I smiled slightly, took out 2 gift boxes. One was the Su family's ancestral bracelet, and the other was a birthday gift for Mrs. Su. When I handed the things over, I hesitated for a moment, and finally called out, Mom, happy birthday. Mrs. Su took my hand and chatted with me for a few words. She accepted the bracelet, and the gift was casually placed aside. There were many guests today, and Mrs. Su didn't have much energy to focus on me. I left the banquet hall tactfully and came to the Su family's back garden. After 3 years of not seeing it, it had changed a lot. I was lost in thought when I felt a gaze on me. I looked up and met a pair of dark and deep eyes not far away. It was Jin Tingzhou. Didn't this man say he was going on a business trip today? He was dressed in black and was surrounded by people. Sui was also beside him, pressing him to ask who the woman he was holding yesterday was. He didn't say anything, just silently rubbing a ring on his hand. It was the couple's ring I gave him yesterday. The one on his hand was the one he forced me to put on him. The one on my hand was the one he thinking of yesterday's scene. I suddenly felt a little embarrassed being stared at by him. I was about to turn around to see if my old room and the Su family was still there when a figure blocked my way. Wan-ro's face came into view. She lowered her voice and looked at me with a gloomy face. Didn't you see the text messages I sent? Why are you so shameless? Wherever Sui is, you follow him. Me, I just passed by. But Wan-ro suddenly grabbed my hand and said loudly, Huan, I know you like Ai, but we love each other now. Can you not break us up? Her voice attracted the attention of everyone around. Looks of contempt, disdain, and mockery all gathered on me in an instant, exactly the same as 3 years ago. Her hand was pulling me so painfully that I slightly frowned. Let go, Huan, I'm begging you. It's not easy for me and Ai to be together. Can you let him go? Her tone was pleading, as she spoke. She tightly grasped my wrist. Her fingernails were deeply embedded in my flesh. I felt the pain and subconsciously tried to break free from her hand. I didn't use much force, but she let out a scream and fell to the ground. Before I could react, a slap was directly slapped on my face. The air around fell silent. Mrs. Su, who appeared in front of me, was trembling with anger, pointing at me and scolding, Ning Huan, I've raised you for so many years, and this is how you repay me. If I had known this, I shouldn't have brought you back to the Su family in the first place. Mrs. Su used all her strength in this slap. I reached out and wiped the blood from the corner of my mouth. My mother passed away early. My father and Mr. Su were comrades in arms. When I was 10 years old, my father died to save Mr. Su, and the Su family adopted me. They raised me for 10 years now. This slap, it not only made the corner of my mouth bleed but also broke the 10-year bond between me and the Su family. I took out a card from my bag. There was 1 million in it. I had prepared it long ago. I handed it to Mrs. Su. Mrs. Su, this is the money you spent on me in these 10 years, with principal and interest. I'm returning it all to you now. Mrs. Su was slightly stunned. What did you call me? Everyone around cast eyes of watching the show, and their teasing expressions kept scanning up and down on me. Sui came up to me, his brows tightly knitted. Huan, stop making trouble. Making trouble. Suyi's words made a self-deprecating smile appear on my lips. When I was adopted by the Su family 10 years ago, many people looked down on me because the Su family was wealthy, and I was just an orphan who had lost both parents and had nothing. Many people called me a bastard behind my back and said I was shameless for climbing up to the Su family. When Sui found out, he found them one by one and beat them all up. Mr. and Mrs. Su also went to the parents of those people. They said that from then on, I was the only daughter of the Su family, with the same status as Sui. If anyone looked down on me, they were looking down on the Su family. When Sui put the Su family's ancestral bracelet on my hand, Mrs. Su also smiled and said that she hoped Sui and I were really destined. In order not to embarrass the Su family, I studied hard and was admitted to the top 1 university in the country. I used my scholarship to buy gifts for Mr. and Mrs. Su. Mr. and Mrs. Su were also very happy. They wanted to hold an entrance to university banquet for me, saying they were proud of me. The most excited one was Sui. He picked me up in public and said that I would be his junior schoolmate from then on. He said that with him around, those men with ill intentions towards me wouldn't even be able to get close to me. They were very good to me. And I really naively thought that I had a family who loved and cared for me, but all of this was shattered on the day I got the admission notice and overestimated myself by confessing to Sue. After Mr. and Mrs. Sue found out, they didn't say anything. They just sent me abroad directly the next day and they never asked about me again. What they said about hoping Sue and I were destined was really just talk. As an orphan, I had no right to be worthy of the only son of the Sue family. I opened my mouth, wanting to say something to Sue, but the words stuck in my throat and I didn't say them in the end. Forget it, there was nothing to say. I didn't look at Mrs. Sue and Sue anymore and turned to leave, but Sue suddenly grabbed my wrist. There was an impatient look on his face. Today is Mom's birthday, do you have to make trouble? He had a lot of strength. The wound that was pinched by Juan Ro was now held tightly by Sue again. It hurt so much that I almost shed tears. How pathetic. If you have to make trouble, apologize to Ro. He sneered, let go of my hand, and put his arm around Juan Ro's shoulder. You pushed her just now. Juan Ro hooked the corner of her mouth in Sue's arms, but still looked at me with tears in her eyes. It's okay, Juan didn't do it on purpose. She just cares about you too much. Juan, it doesn't matter if I suffer a little grievance. Don't have a rift with Auntie and Juan Ro spoke softly and seemed extremely understanding. Sue looked at me coldly. I'll give you two choices. First, apologize to Ro. Second, go back to the room upstairs and stay there obediently, or else, sorry. I interrupted Sue. Is that enough? If not, I can keep saying it. Sue was slightly stunned, then said, fine. Very good. Is this the kind of trick you learned in 3 years abroad? Do you think that by getting angry with me, I'll forgive your nonsense? I didn't look at him again and turned to walk out of the Sue family when Mrs. Sue slapped me. Jean Tingzhou had already walked over, but I stopped him with my eyes. I didn't want to involve him in my affairs with the Sue family. In the car, Jean Tingzhou had a sullen face. He pulled my wrist and silently disinfected and applied medicine to it. After that, he put my hand aside, didn't say a word, and stared straight ahead. I knew he was angry. I put on a playful smile and leaned over, reaching out to tug at Jean Tingzhou's sleeve. Are you angry? He still didn't say anything. I sighed and held his hand. I just don't want to rely on you for everything. Back then, on the first day I was sent abroad by the Sue family, a virus broke out in the foreign country, and I unfortunately got infected. At that time, I didn't have a single cent on me. I sold all the valuable things I had and rented a shabby room that could only fit a bed. I was scrubbing dishes and washing plates with a high fever and body aches, working 5 jobs a day. I almost fainted in the basin in front of me several times. It was Jean Tingzhou who showed up and helped me. That was my first time going abroad. I was unfamiliar with everything. I relied on him for everything. At first, I thought he was sent by my brother to help me, but later I found out he was doing it for himself. What he wanted was me. When I was young, I was also stubborn. Since the Sue family didn't contact me, I didn't contact them either. They sent me abroad, and I could live well on my own in a foreign country. After learning Jean Tingzhou's intentions, I distanced myself from him. I no longer accepted his kindness, but my pride was nothing in the face of reality. I was alone in a foreign country and not a local. I was discriminated against. Others could get a certain salary, but I couldn't even get half of it. I didn't do anything wrong, yet I even got beaten when I couldn't even sustain my life. I couldn't imagine how I could live well, so I accepted Jean Tingzhou. I even took the initiative to get into his bed. I originally thought that he was just interested in me for a while and would abandon me soon after getting me. After all, I really couldn't figure out why someone like him would take a fancy to an orphan like me, but he took care of me for a full 3 years when I didn't want to return to China. He arranged a school for me abroad so that I could continue my further studies. When I fell in love with scientific research, he invested in a laboratory for me to conduct research. When I didn't like being alone, he opened a company abroad and accompanied me for a full 3 years. During this period, the Sue family didn't contact me at all. I originally wanted to explain to Jean Tingzhou that I didn't want to always cause him trouble, but I didn't expect that after I said that, the air pressure around Jean Tingzhou became even lower. He even pushed away the hand that was tugging at his sleeve. Now it was my turn to be angry. Jean Tingzhou, turn around and look at me. Jean Tingzhou was silent for 2 seconds, then turned his head, but on his extremely handsome face, there was still indifference, and he still didn't say a word. Forget it, if he doesn't want to talk, fine. I also didn't say anything. I leaned against the back seat of the car and closed my eyes. I originally wanted to pretend to sleep with my eyes closed, but I didn't expect to actually fall asleep. When I opened my eyes again, we had already arrived home. The food was also ready. They were all my favorite dishes at the Sue family's banquet today. I really didn't eat much. Now I was really hungry. Jean Tingzhou was sitting on the sofa having a video conference. When he saw me, he turned his head to take a look, Then lowered his head and said in English that the meeting was over. After turning off his phone, he put it aside and picked up an economic magazine beside him and started reading it again. I walked up to him, sat on his lap, and put my arms around his neck. He didn't resist. I became more brazen. I'm hungry, feed me. Jean Tingzhou held me with one hand and carried me to the dining table. I refused to get off him, and he patiently sat on the chair, picking up food and putting it into my mouth. When I was almost full, my hand started to wander around his body. He held me down and warned me with his eyes not to move, but if I listened to him, I wouldn't be Ning Huan. I took his hand, put it around my waist, hooked his neck, and pulled him towards me. In the heat of the moment, a video call popped up. It's very annoying to be interrupted when doing this kind of thing. I didn't look at who it was. I reached my hand to the side, wanting to hang up directly, but accidentally touched the answer button. A familiar voice came from the phone. Ning Huan, brother, he is drunk. Come and pick him up and take him home. The usual place. It was Su Yi's friend. An impatient look flashed across my face. Just as I was about to hang up, I heard Su Yi's voice coming from the receiver. Nan, who are you calling? I don't need her to pick me up. Since she wants to make trouble, let her make trouble. I haven't seen her for 3 years, and her temper has grown. She even learned to use getting angry to threaten people. What? Does she think this can make us compromise? There was disgust in Su Yi's tone, so he also knew that we hadn't been in touch for 3 years. When I was first sent abroad, the Su family ignored me. I would make excuses for them, thinking that they were busy and would contact me when they had time, but I waited for a long time. For a full 3 years, I didn't receive a single call. 3 years ago, Sui also liked to have dinner and drink outside, and he would drink until late at night every time, regardless of winter or summer, no matter what time it was. As long as I got a call, I would immediately get out of bed and go find him. But now, what happened to him had nothing to do with me. Thinking of the past, I was distracted. A hint of displeasure flashed across Jean Tingzhou's eyes, and he directly bit my lip. I let out a muffled. He bypassed me, reached out to take the phone, and hung up directly. Just now, I was the one taking the initiative, and Jean Tingzhou was sitting there, holding back and not moving. Now after hanging up the phone, Jean Tingzhou held the back of my head and pressed down. Do you still have him in your heart? His voice was cold. I was about to open my mouth to refute, but then I thought about it and closed my mouth without saying anything. He didn't even talk to me just now. Jean Tingzhou's eyes darkened even more. Don't think about him. Just as Jean Tingzhou and I were fighting passionately, the door of the villa made a slight noise. Jean Tingzhou was quick-witted and covered me with a blanket. His sharp eyes looked towards the door, and a head poked out from the door. A woman who looked somewhat similar to Jean Tingzhou, although she was middle-aged, was well-maintained and looked very young with an excellent temperament, appeared at the door. Seeing the person coming, the vigilance in Jean Tingzhou's eyes disappeared, and his tone became helpless. Mom, why are you here? Under the blanket, my body stiffened involuntarily. 5 minutes later, after tidying up my clothes, I stood in the living room with a flushed face, greeting Mrs. Jean stiffly and awkwardly. Auntie, hello. His family members should not know about Jean Tingzhou and me. I lowered my head, not daring to look at Mrs. Jean. In my mind, the scene of me being sent abroad by the Su family after my failed confession to Sui 3 years ago kept flashing. A shadow appeared above my head. Jean Tingzhou stood in front of me, blocking the light above. He looked at Mrs. Jean calmly, not saying a word. Mrs. Jean also didn't say anything. Just when I could hardly bear the atmosphere, I suddenly heard Mrs. Jean say happily, "Found it." I looked up and saw that she was holding a mobile phone in her hand, and the page was the calendar. How about the 8th day of this month? It's an auspicious day. There are still 10 days. I'll go back and arrange the wedding now. I was a bit stunned. Before I could react to what was happening, I heard Jean Tingzhou had already agreed. Okay, Mrs. Jean was extremely excited. She directly pushed Jean Tingzhou aside. She took my hand, looked me up and down, and the more she looked, the wider the smile on her face became. Good. Wait, Auntie, you, Huan, your name is Huan, right? I didn't remember it wrong, did I? I was slightly stunned. How do you know? Auntie, Mrs. Jean exclaimed. In the old house of the Jean family, in Tingzhou's room, which is over 100 square meters, it's full of your photos. Wait a minute. Although I knew that Jean Tingzhou had taken a fancy to me for a long time, this was too exaggerated. A room of over 100 square meters was filled with my photos. Before I could finish speaking, Mrs. Jean grabbed my hand. The time is tight, Huan. Mom will take you to customize a wedding dress first. What on earth was going on? I was really confused, but Mrs. Jean had already dragged me out. She was happily about to pull me into the car. At the moment before getting into the car, I interrupted Mrs. Jin's action and said seriously, Auntie, I'm an orphan, I have no family background and I'm not worthy of Jin Tingzhou. The incident 3 years ago made me recognize the reality. Sorry, Huan. As expected, I smiled just as I was about to say something to Mrs. Jean. I saw her suddenly hold my hand and say with a pained expression, I investigated you without your permission. I know everything about you, but don't worry, from now on, I'll be your mother. After you marry in, I'll definitely love you more than that brat Jin Tingzhou. I was stunned on the spot. In an instant, Mrs. Jean had pulled me into the car. Tingzhou didn't tell me much about you, but I was very curious, so I investigated on my own. I'm sorry, Huan, you're very outstanding. You were admitted to the top 1 university in China, and you also studied at a top-notch school abroad. I heard that your scientific research team won the first place in a world-class competition with your research results some time ago, right? My Tingzhou can't do anything. He can only earn a little money. In my opinion, he's not worthy of you. Mrs. Jean held my hand and said a lot of things, which made my eyes finally turn red. Mrs. Jean took me to customize a wedding dress that day. She sent out the invitations the next day. On the 3rd and 4th days, she took me shopping. On the 5th day, the wedding dress that was made overnight was ready. I have to say that preparing for a wedding is really tiring. It wasn't until after taking the wedding photos that I had some free time to relax. I realized that I hadn't had time to look at my phone for many days. When I picked it up today, I found that my phone had received a lot of calls and text messages. Sui sent the most messages. He sent a screenshot of a hand. It was Jin Tingzhou's hand that was revealed when he hung up the video call from his friend. Whose hand is this? A man's. Good for you, Ning Huan. Now you've even learned to find a man to act. Do you think that if a man with ulterior motives appears around you, I'll still care about you like before? Are you trying to test me? Can you stop being so childish? Ning Huan, my patience is limited. If you behave yourself, I can still consider you as my sister. If you insist on going your own way. And there were a lot of words, and they were very annoying. I didn't look any further and exited the chat interface. Mrs. Su also sent me several messages. Huan, what mom said that day was a bit excessive, but you know, mom only has Ai as a son, and he will take over the family business in the future. I think you should understand what mom means. After all, you've been mom's daughter for 10 years, and mom still has deep feelings for you. Be good, put away those inappropriate thoughts, and mom will still love you as before. Mrs. Su's words made me fall silent. My hand hovered over the phone for a few seconds, and finally, I also exited this chat interface. There was nothing more to say. There were also some messages from the mutual friends I used to have with Sui, but apart from my own friends, teachers, and classmates, I didn't reply to anyone or anything related to the Su family. After replying to the messages, I scrolled through my WeChat moments. It would have been fine if I hadn't looked, but when I did, I found that my moments was flooded with posts from Sui. He had shared a lot of photos of him and Wanro. There were pictures of him celebrating Wanro's birthday and traveling abroad with her. Sui seldom posted on moments. He might not even post one in a year, but now, he had posted quite a few things related to Wanro. Maybe he really liked her. I refreshed the list and found a latest update. It was from Jin Tingzhou. There was no text, just a photo of our hands wearing couple rings, holding each other. The comment section below exploded. Sui was the first to comment, asking who Jin Tingzhou was. Jin Tingzhou ignored him. For those who left messages like wish you a long-lasting relationship, Jin Tingzhou replied with thank you one by one. Finally, Sui sent another 99 to Jin Tingzhou, but Jin Tingzhou still didn't respond to him. This led Sui to privately message Jin Tingzhou, asking him what was wrong recently. Jin Tingzhou still didn't reply, but Jin Tingzhou didn't delete him either. Instead, he started posting 2 or 3 photos of me and him in moments every day. However, none of them showed our full faces. The day before my wedding with Jin Tingzhou, when I went to the Jin family's old mansion, I met Sui and his group who came early to celebrate with Jin Tingzhou at the entrance of the old mansion. Wanro, who was following beside him, saw me first and exclaimed in surprise, "Sister, why are you here?" Hearing this, Sui turned his head. When he saw me, a sneer curled up at the corner of his mouth. He crossed his arms over his chest and looked at me with his head held high. "What? Realized you were wrong. Come here." I ignored him and walked towards the old mansion. Suyi's expression changed, and he reached out to stop me. "Ning Huan, what are you doing? This isn't the Su family. You can't make a scene here." I frowned slightly. I really thought Sui was annoying. Wanro also came forward to persuade me. "Sister, this is the Jin family. You can't just barge in. If you offend the Jin family, no one can protect you. You'd better go back obediently. If there's anything, we can talk about it when I get back." Just as Ruan Ro finished speaking, a child ran out from the old mansion. He was the son of Jean Tingzhou's uncle. He was not very old, about 5 or 6 years old. He looked around a few times, and finally, when he saw me, a happy smile appeared on his face. "Sister, you're back, come on, everyone is waiting for you." He took my hand and we walked in together. A look of shock flashed across Suyi's face. He was stunned for a second, then he wanted to follow, but was stopped by the Jean family's security guards. "Our young master doesn't receive guests today." There were quite a few relatives in the Jean family today. They were all very enthusiastic, holding my hand, trying to give me red envelopes and gifts. Finally, Jean Tingzhou came to my rescue on the wedding day. I got married from the Jean family's old mansion. The Jean family was a well-known and respected family in Shangjing. There were a lot of people at the wedding today. When Jean Tingzhou and I stood on the stage, I glanced down and accidentally met Suyi's red-eyed gaze. He was clenching his fists tightly, as if he had suffered a great grievance. When Mr. and Mrs. Su saw me, they were also shocked and stood there motionless. The wedding went smoothly. It was not until evening that we finally had some free time. I was so tired that I almost fell asleep leaning on Jean Tingzhou. But just as we arrived at the entrance of the Jean family's old mansion, a figure blocked our way. It was Su Yi. He clenched his fist and punched directly at Jean Tingzhou. "Jean Tingzhou, I regarded you as a brother, yet you coveted my sister. Who allowed you to marry her?" His eyes were bloodshot, filled with overwhelming anger. But before he could get close to Jean Tingzhou kicked him away. He was like an enraged lion, his red eyes fixed on Jean Tingzhou as he kept repeating, "Who allowed you to marry my sister?" "She's my sister, mine." Jean Tingzhou frowned slightly. He was about to call the security guards to drag Sui away, but I grabbed his hand. I shook my head at him. Jean Tingzhou's expression changed, and he tried to hold my hand tightly in return, but I had already walked up to Sui. One step ahead, I slapped him hard across the face. "Sui, you know very well that I'm just your sister in name. Whom I marry has nothing to do with you. Moreover, I've already returned the money to your Su family, with both principal and interest. In terms of sentiment, my father lost his life to ensure your father's safety. I don't owe your Su family anything. I have nothing to do with the Su family anymore. Don't say such disgusting things." After this slap, I felt it wasn't quite enough, so I slapped him on the other side of his face. Then I took Jean Tingzhou's hand and went home. After that day, I never saw Sui again. I also deleted and blocked the contact information of everyone related to the Su family. However, a month later, when I was about to go out, I saw Mrs. Su at the door. I didn't know what Mrs. Su had been through during this period. The usually well-groomed her now looked a bit slovenly. Her hair was uncombed, and she had heavy dark circles under her eyes. Just as she was about to say something more, a sneer came from inside. "No, Huan, please go and see your brother." "Okay." From Mrs. Su, I learned that Sui had been having a very hard time recently. He locked himself in his room all day, neither eating nor drinking. When he came out, he would drink and fight. He got himself all bruised up but didn't want to apply any medicine this time. He was in a car race with others, crashed off a cliff, and was sent to the intensive care unit. He was still in a coma. Huan, your brother likes you. He has broken up with Ruan Ro. It's all Mom's fault. Mom shouldn't have stopped you two back then. Please go back and see I pushed Mrs. Su's hand away from mine. I looked at her indifferently. "Mrs. Su, please watch your words. What happens to Sui has nothing to do with me. I don't have the ability to persuade him either. After all, I'm just an orphan." Mrs. Su was stunned. I didn't want to entangle with her and turn to leave, but Mrs. Su called out to me, then asked Jean Tingzhou to stop him from taking actions against the Su family. "We the Su family haven't done anything to owe him." I was slightly taken aback. Only then did I know that Jean Tingzhou had always remembered the slap I received at the Su family's banquet. He had taken revenge on the Su family for that slap. With interest, I paused and said to Mrs. Su, "I can't control Tingzhou's decisions. If you have any questions, Mrs. Su, you can go and ask him yourself." I couldn't question my husband for the sake of an outsider. After saying that, I didn't stay any longer and walked forward. Not far away, Jean Tingzhou was waiting for me. The end.